They made up their minds and they started packing.
They left before the sun came up that day. An exit to eternal summer slacking.
But where were they going without ever knowing the way? They drank up the wine and they got to talking.
They now had more important things to say. And when the car broke down, they started walking.
Where were they going without ever knowing the way? Anyone can see the road that they walk on is paved in gold. It's always summer, they'll never get cold. They'll never get hungry. They'll never get old and gray. Hey, this has been Wage Mediocre. I'm Cash. That's Joel.
Hi.
That was a fastball, and that is the way.
Thanks for listening to Middle Aged and Mediocre. I'm Cash.
I'm Joel.
And we are a podcast about all things strange and unusual, death and UFOs, and other creepy,
Cults,
weird, random
ghosts.
There you go.
Yeah. Not just naming things in the room.
Oh my god.
There's a cult of ghosts. Previously on Middle Age and Mediocre.
A man named James Wilson was born in Memphis in 1946. He was put up for adoption at 3 years old. They changed his name to James Lewis. He went on to become a bit of a scam artist, a bit of a scamp. He was involved with a man who had his... a retired man who had his legs severed at the hips.
They found him in the attic!
So they could put him in the attic.
Yeah.
That's right. You remember.
I remember. Previously.
May or may not have killed him. Not really sure.
Yeah.
Or they
Could have been suicide.
They either killed him or they found him dead and then decided they were going to use his checks to try to get paid. But him and his wife were on the move. They changed their names a lot. At one point, they're
like Donnie Donaldson or something, or Randy Roberts. It was
something
always
like
the same letter.
always good alliteration.
Willy Wonka? I don't know.
The wife ended up working for a man named McCahey. His business shut down, and they were unable to pay everyone their final checks.
Uh-huh.
When his wife, LeAnn, left the business, she took some envelopes with his whatever a Pitney Bowes postage meter is stamped on them. I don't exactly know what that means, but it basically it's his, like, it looks like it's a letter coming from McCahey.
Yeah.
So she took a stack of those and made sure she stamped them first.
Probably for some forgery type of shit.
So when we left off, they had arrived in Chicago under the names, what were their names at this point when they arrived?
The Windy City?
They were in the Windy City after they fled from some check fraud. They were very good. They were good that he had a scam where he would create addresses, pound a post box into the ground, have somebody's like tax return go there.
He's a hustler.
He's a hustler, baby. But they were now in Chicago under the names Karen and William Wagner.
See, WW.
And then they moved on and became Robert and Nancy Richardson.
Yep.
So, yeah, that is where we are at.
She could pick either name. She went with Karen and Nancy.
Yeah, Karen and Nancy, and he went with William and Robert. So that's where we ended part one. We'll be getting into the rest of this story of the Tylenol Man, as he became known, and we'll figure out why he became known as the Tylenol Man.
Let's get after it.
Well, before we get after that, you want to get after? You had a pretty big comedy show.
Yeah.
Last weekend
at the Smut.
The Smut Theater.
That's how I say it.
How'd the Smut Theater go?
It was a lot of fun. The whole bottom part was filled up, so I'm 400 people, 300 people, something like that. It was a fun show. Kevin Farley was real good. Joe Ellison.
Is that the most people you've done a show
Probably,
for?
yeah.
Okay, because I know you've done like some festivals and things.
Yeah, those festivals were
okay.
not good. But yeah, it was definitely probably the biggest crowd, and it was fun to be on the Smut stage. Now I can't not say it. Smut.
You said Kevin Farley was pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
Nice guy.
It was funny. They were like, I was so concerned about being friendly, PG. He's up there talking about butt fucking and everything. I guess they pretty much told him just let it fly.
Okay. So maybe
as soon as I got there, the lady in charge was like, this is the last comedy show ever. She was like, it was a super weird vibe. But I mean, everyone loved it. It was like people wanted pictures of me after the show. So they
might end up changing their minds then.
Yeah.
If the turnout was good.
Sure. Probably not. She doesn't seem like a mind changer, but we'll see.
So she was just the lady that ran the smoot.
Yeah. She doesn't like she wants everything clean.
Yeah.
Like Donnie Baker's been there, and that guy's not clean at all.
No, not at all.
I guess at the Donnie Baker show, she just stood off stage, like arms crossed, glaring at him. So at one point during the show, he's like kept talking about the ghost of the smoot, saying that she was the ghost of the smoot. But the Smoot's a cool building, though. I got to kind of explore it a little bit. I was down in the basement and all the dressing rooms. And it was fun.
Just jerking off in all of them.
Well, I don't want to put that on air.
Leaving your ectoplasm behind all over.
I left my mark.
So we were supposed to be in Cincinnati right now.
Yeah.
We didn't think we were going to be able to record an episode this weekend because we were supposed to go to the Reds versus the Pirates game in Cincinnati. A host of factors, though, led to us not going. I think the main factor, one of the main factors being there's going to be just way too many damn people.
Yeah.
But if the game even happens, there's apparently tornadoes and shit out that way.
Yep.
So it's supposed to be like 25-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, and with that kind of wind, it could blow rain in real easily. And it's the first Saturday of the season. It's going to be packed.
So after really...
We're like where the seats were, we weren't even like covered or anything.
No.
So, yeah.
We've been right out there.
It was your call.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that, like, I tried to sell the tickets. Didn't have any takers.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
So now they're half price. If anyone out there listening, they want tickets. I'll let your boy half price.
Yeah, you could say, like, hey, I had tickets for that. Yeah. I only paid, you can get them for $50.
Yeah.
That's less than half price.
Or $1.
So, yeah, really, at this point, whatever you want to pay me for them.
Sure.
I tried selling them on the app.
Uh-huh.
That was impossible. So, yeah, just kind of decided, fuck it, let's not.
Apparently, I kept the spirit alive and came over dressed as an umpire.
You are dressed as an umpire.
As soon as I walked in, you just cut me down. You're like, I thought an umpire was coming in here. I have a blue polo on with a black hat. It's backwards now, so I even have more of an umpire look. Yeah.
I mean, I really thought you were going to kick my door in and be like, you're out of here. Yeah, I mean, you're wearing the light blue polo, a black hat turned backwards.
And I'm a beefy fella, so I'm stocky.
Yeah.
I'm a beefy boy.
I mean,
we know that. I'm a beef inspector.
If you don't want somebody to say you look like an umpire, don't dress like an umpire.
That's on me.
That's on you.
That's on me.
What am I supposed to do?
I don't know.
Ignore it?
I don't know.
Can't.
Maybe I just wanted this to be my safe place.
Ooh.
Safe.
You're out of here! Now, so I haven't really, I've always kind of been I've always paid attention to what's going on in baseball.
Uh-huh.
I know who's good, who's not, and who they play. I know what's happening in baseball.
Who won the World Series last year?
The Astros.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
I tried to think of it the other day, and it took me a good 5-10 minutes. I was like, baseball, because that's why I started thinking. I was like, I don't even think I can remember who won the World Series.
Did they win 2 years in a row?
No, they didn't win the year before. I think Dodgers won the year before, didn't they?
So because didn't the Astros everybody accuse them of cheating?
Yeah, they got...
Was that the year before?
They were absolutely cheated. Yeah, or a couple years ago.
Okay.
May have been a couple years.
So I remember when they won last year, everybody was like, oh, fucking cheaters again.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. So I started my vacation Thursday, opening day of Major League Baseball.
Yep.
And I was sitting here by the time 1 o'clock rolled around, I figured, I'll just watch a bunch of baseball games today. I don't have anything else to do until later in the day. How do you not have as a league, how do you not have a bunch of games on?
I remember it used to be WGN would have the Cubs, TBS would have the Braves.
Yeah. There was a game
somewhere.
at 8 o'clock Thursday night, I think, maybe it came on.
People don't watch it.
There was nothing on yesterday. There was one later on the day. There's one tonight. But it's just, I'm no wonder baseball kind of sucks. They need, I don't know what the fuck their deal is, but I can't imagine the NFL or the NBA season starting.
Yeah.
And it being man, I wish I could watch some of these.
There's more XFL games on, probably.
There's definitely XFL games, yeah. But, so we're here recording a podcast instead.
Lucky you.
We brought you some fastball, to go with the theme of opening day.
It's the way.
Opening weekend. It's the way. But yeah, let's get back into the story of the Tylenol man, Jim Lewis.
The Tylenol man.
He may or may not have already killed a man. We don't know. Yeah. But he is definitely a scam artist.
Yeah,
definitely a fraudster.
He's up to no good.
Yeah. Him and his wife moved around a lot, changed alias. So we're going to start part 2 on the morning of September 29th, 1982, when 12-year-old Mary Kellerman, she woke up, she had a sore throat. So she goes and she takes 2 extra-strength Tylenol capsules. In seconds, she collapsed to the floor.
Seconds?
In seconds.
Wow.
So paramedics got there, and they think that she had maybe a stroke or a heart attack, but she never woke back up. So she died.
Damn. 12 years old.
Same day, Adam Janis, age 27, he had stayed home from his job that day. He had a chest cold. He took a couple Tylenol and fell into a coma at 11:54 a.m. Same afternoon, Mary Reiner, 27, she stops in at Frank's Finer Food in Winfield, Chicago.
FFF?
FFF. She buys a bottle of Tylenol. She had just had her fourth child, so she was kind of sore, and
Sure.
that's what 4 kids would do. So she stops, gets some Tylenol, takes
Tell
it.
me about it.
45 minutes later, coma.
Huh, so it took her 45 minutes, and the girl was like instantly.
Instant, yeah. So then Mary McFarland, age 31, she's at work. She's got a migraine. She goes into the women's room, takes a couple
Hits off the bowl.
Tylenol, walks back into the office, and drops to the floor. She's dead.
Damn.
So around 5 p.m.,
They made her finish her shift.
Nice
try, Mary!
everybody Bernie her, prop her up like Bernie. Let's weekend to Bernie's this shit. We got to get work day done.
Yes.
So around 5 p.m. that same day, the family of Adam Janis, the 27-year-old who had fell into a coma, he had passed away later in the day. So the Janis family is in his home. They're discussing funeral arrangements. The younger brother Stanley, his sister-in-law Teresa, they both have headaches.
Oh no!
Shitty day.
Yeah.
Someone said, "Hey, I think there's a bottle of Tylenol in the bathroom." Minutes later, Stanley collapsed in the living room. Paramedics loaded him onto a stretcher. Then Teresa falls to the floor. Authorities evacuated the house and put the family and medical workers under quarantine, suspecting some sort of contagion or toxic gas. Same evening, Paula Prince, 35-year-old Chicago flight attendant. She gets home. She goes to the local Walgreens. She buys some extra strength Tylenol around 9 p.m. She goes home, puts on a nightgown, takes a couple Tylenol capsules, and she dies.
And they're all from different stores and stuff. It's
Yeah.
not like all these. Man, what's happening? I think I kind of do remember this.
Her body's discovered 2 days later. So while Paula Prince was making her purchase, 2 firefighters, Richard Keyworth and Philip Capitelli, they were both on the phone talking about a lot of like the strange calls coming in the day, like people fucking falling into comas.
Yeah.
So Capitelli says, my mother-in-law works with Mary Kellerman's mother. Mary Kellerman was one of the ones that took Tylenol and died. And he's like, so he knew about everybody being upset about her death. The other firefighter pulls up some incident reports and starts describing all of them to him. And Capitelli says that every death is very, they're all very similar to the 3 Janis's family, the Janis family.
Yeah.
So then the firefighters realize that in every single report, Tylenol is mentioned. So one of them says, "Hey, it's a wild stab in the dark here, but maybe it's something to do with Tylenol." So they start, report to police officers. The police officers find the bottle of Tylenol that Kellerman had in. They had taken as like evidence, So they take it to the hospital. They get it looked at because the medical staff already kind of thought that they'd been poisoned. As soon as the investigators open the bottle of Tylenol, the distinctive scent of bitter almonds associated with cyanide hits their. And I don't know if this is just the way the guy wrote this. I'm using an article called "The Bitter Pill." I don't know if that's just this guy wrote this on purpose or not, but he quotes. So he writes, the distinctive cyanide scent of bitter almonds, and then he quotes Richard something, Chicago police superintendent, who said, "It was just nuts." I don't know if that was supposed to be like a little joke they had, but it's
not the time.
Like,
okay?
not the time,
yeah.
dude.
I do some really bad jokes, but that's not the time.
Yeah.
Gobble, gobble, gobble.
So within 72 hours of Mary Kellerman's death, an unprecedented amount of federal, state, and local law enforcement agents were on the case.
Shooting every bottle of Tylenol they see on the shelf.
Product tampering.
It's coming right for me!
Product tampering had happened before. Never like this bad, though.
Man, that's crazy.
So an official Tylenol task force was put together.
The OTT?
The OTT.
Wow! I got to work OT on the OTT.
Yeah. I'm on the OTTF. It was convened at a command post in the plains, and our internet just went out, or my computers went off, my power went off, so nothing's happening right now. None of this has been recorded. Oh, it's still recording.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
That was weird. I saw
weird.
the lights flash and...
Well, we're going to keep trying to record.
Okay.
So...
I'm scared. Hold me closer. You already hold me, but hold me even closer.
Tyrone Fainer, then the Illinois Attorney General, became the primary spokesperson for the investigation. He held twice daily press briefings and received plenty of TV time. He needed it as he was lagging behind in the polls in a run for re-election against Neil Hartigan. He says,
well, that was convenient.
I was on TV every night. People who didn't know who I was all of a sudden did.
He's like, I talk about it all the time.
Like, this is like his best.
You're getting tied in with just death.
This was his best life at the time. He's like,
Wow.
I'm always on TV.
Well, back then there was like 5 channels. So it's pretty easy.
He says that he still bristles at accusations that political posturing had an adverse effect on the task force's efficacy. I wasn't the only one who had true jurisdiction. You don't tell the feds what to do, and they don't like to be told what to do, okay? And the same is true of the local police chiefs out there. All in all, he concludes that it was a truly decent and very good, fine effort, which is to say, it was a shit show.
Yeah.
No, everyone wanted jurisdiction. No one could get along. It was the normal shit. So, Jeremy Margolis, the then assistant U.S. attorney, says that everyone fought for a little peace in the sun. You had literally hundreds of people working sometimes together and sometimes at odds under very difficult circumstances because nobody really knew what the heck was going on.
Hey, what the heck is going on?
The relationship between the local cops and the FBI was particularly bad.
It always is.
Always is.
They never want the feds stepping
We're here
on
now.
case.
We got this. We take over. How about you go? How about you go cover some? Go get that crowd back.
Go arrest some cows out there or something.
You fucks. So officials focused first on removing Tylenol from store shelves and recalling bottles from buyers. Mayor Jane Byrne called for the removal of all Tylenol products from Chicago during a dramatic press conference. Late on the night that Paula Prince was discovered dead. The briefing, beamed nationwide, stoked a panic that soon became global. Tylenol's makers,
Tylenol becomes illegal. Only bad guys will have Tylenol.
That's right. And then what are you going to do?
I know. You need
So
more. I think you need more Tylenol. I think they should have put more Tylenol on the shelf.
Yeah. If everyone had Tylenol, then
it'd be good.
We'd be fine. And I think you need some Tylenol in every school.
Definitely.
So, Tylenol's makers. Don't get me started.
Don't even get them started.
Why are you doing this?
I'm unzipping you.
You're just pushing buttons.
Pushing buttons. That's what I do.
Tylenol's makers, Johnson & Johnson, reportedly didn't want a total recall at first.
It's a big shock. Like what, 7 people died? Oh, 9?
That's it?
Yeah, wake me up when it's a dozen. All right, wake me up when it's 2 dozen.
A baker's dozen.
Yeah.
But they did bow to public pressure, and they asked the public to return their bottles and offered a $100,000 reward for any information on the killings. The company then set up labs and began the painstaking process of testing capsules for contamination. Law enforcement agents...
it's good they did, but that would be a nightmare, as a company.
You just do not want... as soon as you hear that there's, a Tylenol product, you're like, are we making that? Son of a... Please say we quit making that. There were a lot of theories early on. Investigators thought that this was possibly manipulation of Johnson & Johnson's stock prices by some imagined white-collar crime syndicate.
Okay.
They examined the Puerto Rican terrorist group FALN. Every disgruntled employee at every place where the contaminated Tylenol was manufactured, stored, or sold was interviewed and evaluated. Any shoplifters arrested at those retailers got a second going over, check them out again.
Yeah.
Investigators even picked over sales routes and custodial service rosters, seeking a common face. So they're just throwing darts.
How, man?
Because really, what else? Yeah, you don't really have a lot to go on.
Yeah.
Recently released inmates and mental patients in the vicinity were profiled and interrogated. Taking a page from the Son of Sam crime-solving book, police ran checks on every car receiving a citation in the area. Agents listened to psychics and crackpots calling the task force hotline with tips about clues found in olive jars and messages about the murder written with magic pens. They questioned every family member and intimate partner of each victim, thinking the killer may have had one intended target and camouflage the crime with other deaths.
Yeah, that's good thinking.
So if I just put cyanide in all the Tylenol, I'll definitely get that one person.
Yeah.
To psych out the killer, the police used the media. They publicized and monitored funeral arrangements, hoping the murderer might attend or visit the grave sites. Task force members asked Mike Royko to write a heart-wrenching column about little Mary Kellerman, hoping to draw the perpetrator to her home. Royko refused, and then some journalist named Bob Green did it instead, and it didn't, of course, work.
Yeah. By
the end of the first week, officials were starting to lose hope. Just 1 week goes by. Yeah. Well, that's the game, boys. They had anticipated that some physical evidence would emerge, but it didn't. The recall effort provided an excess of 10 million capsules, which were tested for cyanide. More than 50, messed with capsules were found in 8 bottles. 5 from the victim's bottles, 2 from consumers' returns, and 1 was still on the store shelf. Yet none of the boxes, bottles, or capsules yielded usable fingerprints.
Huh.
So, at the time, the bottles were just in, a box.
Yeah.
There was no little protective
seal or anything.
The cap wasn't a childproof cap.
Probably no cotton in there or anything. Maybe there was. I don't know. I was 3, so I don't remember a lot.
Right. The theory remains that the killer visited each store and paid for the Tylenol, not wanting to risk a shoplifting arrest. He or she then emptied a handful of capsules, replaced the I can't ever say this word, acetaminophen with potassium cyanide, recapped the capsule, sprinkled a few on top of each bottle to ensure quick ingestion, and then returned the box to its shelf.
What kind of... That's such a weird thing. You don't even know your victims. You're just causing fucking havoc.
Scattershot.
Just the worst.
So while investigators spun their wheels in frustration, the press demanded answers. It really got to be almost laughable. Fauner would hold a press conference, and then they'd all come running down to my place and say, "Fauner said this. Why do you think about that?" There was so much pressure on the media people from the local networks that they were just going nuts. This is that Brizchek guy. He was a police officer, or he was the commander-in-chief, or not the commander-in-chief, the police chief. There was so much pressure on the media, people from the local networks, they were just going nuts, he says, calling the Tylenol circus a precursor to the OJ and John Bonet melees. Quote, the station managers were tightening the screws, saying, get scoops. Despite filling more airtime with the Tylenol murders than with any other story since the end of the Vietnam War, reporters were also unsuccessful in their attempts to break the case. So, sitting in the city watching all of this, and I made a mistake earlier. I said that James Lewis and his wife were in Chicago.
Yeah.
They weren't. They're in New York City under different names. But so he's in New York City, and he's watching all of this.
Yeah.
James Lewis is. He's watching all this on the news, and he's still wanting to get back at McCahey because he fucking hates McCahey at this point.
Yeah, he got that $300 check. He didn't get it.
I think it was $500.
Oh, $500.
He didn't, they didn't pay that out. So he has taken, it's his personal mission now to fuck McCahey.
Yeah.
So, on the morning of October 6, 1982, photocopies of an unsigned letter got passed around an eternal Johnson & Johnson strategy meeting. Handwritten in block printing, it reads, Johnson & Johnson, parent of McNeil Laboratories, gentlemen, as you can see, it is easy to place cyanide, both potassium and sodium, into capsules sitting on store shelves. And since the cyanide is inside the gelatin, it is easier to get buyers to swallow the bitter pill. Another beauty is that cyanide operates quickly, it takes so very little, and there will be no time to take countermeasures. If you don't mind the publicity of these little capsules, then do nothing. So far, I've spent less than $50, and it takes me less than 10 minutes per bottle. If you want to stop the killing, then wire $1 million to bank account number 8449597 at Continental Illinois Bank, Chicago, Illinois. Don't attempt to involve the FBI or local Chicago authorities with this letter. A couple of phone calls by me will undo anything you can possibly do. The bank account number was McCahey's.
Yeah.
Within hours, the FBI had lifted fingerprints from the original document, duly noting the envelope's New York City postmark. Scratching away the postmark, investigators found metered postage with an identifying Pitney Bowes number.
Oh, my God.
And an old date. The meter was owned by Lakeside Travel. The envelope was stamped April 15th, 1982. They then discovered the bank account belonged to Lakeside's owner, Frederick Miller McCahey. So, he thinks that he's devised the perfect plan to get McCahey.
Yeah.
So he actually knows that. So he says, there's this that James Margolis. He's like the former U.S. attorney. He says James Lewis fancied himself a really brilliant guy. He knows how law enforcement works, and he decided to wait and take advantage of the next natural catastrophe. It could have been a plane crash, a train wreck, whatever. It just happened to be the Tylenol killings. He left Chicago with these envelopes in his possession and the bank account number, knowing that something bad would happen someplace, and he would take advantage of it and put the heat on McCahey. He knew that the Bureau would eventually figure out that McCahey hadn't done whatever it was that he was claiming to have done in the letter. But during the course of the Bureau's investigation of McCahey, knowing as much as he claimed to know about how the Bureau works, he knew that they'd work McCahey up one side and down the other and figure out what a horrible white-collar criminal he was.
Just find other stuff to
So he was just going to set him up, that way they would find everything else. That was his whole plan. But, to me, like, you make it that obvious, and clearly they're going to pretty much, like, they're going to assume pretty quickly that this wasn't, like, McCahey's either the dumbest fucking human being ever. You know, like, if you're going to hold up Johnson & Johnson, you're probably not going to use the bank account just with your name on it.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll never know it's me.
Chicago authorities did investigate and interrogate McCahey. He denied any involvement, and they asked, like, well, who might be out to get you then? And he immediately said Robert and Nancy Richardson, which is how he knew James and LeAnn.
Lewis.
A quick check of employment records led the cops to Chicago Tax Service, where Bob Richardson's old job application lay. With one look, agents knew who'd written the extortion note. So now they've got one of James's old false identities. So a little further digging into Richardson's past revealed he'd published a freelance column in the Chicago Tribune back in July, complete with a photograph of himself. So now they knew he wrote a little poem, kind of.
Oh.
So if you want to
Haiku?
know. One well-dressed evangelist, bullhorn blast, ing promises of salvation. A one-legged man, walking proud and alone. One information booth in the middle of the sidewalk ignored. One blue and white police car sitting empty. Windows open. 4 pairs of white shoes. One left shoe untied.
Oh.
So he's deep.
Wow.
He's a deep thinker, this guy. So the task force goes public with the letter on October 7th. But Fauner downplayed its importance, saying it will not be relevant in solving the cyanide murders, calling the extortion attempt a side issue, a hoax. It was, however, the first tangible development in the grinding investigation. A week later, the FBI issued an arrest warrant and published the Richardson headshot, Lewis's headshot. Kansas City police recognized the suspect, including the Chicago cops. The man they were after was really Jim Lewis, a suspect in the murder of Raymond West and an alleged tax fraud schemer. Suddenly, Fauner changed his tune, and he said, "Oh yeah, this does have some significance." So police had another suspect under close scrutiny. They were looking at a 48-year-old dock worker named Roger Arnold. He was just a pretty normal blue-collar guy. He liked to frequent Lincoln Park taverns. One evening, he made some barroom chatter about the Tylenol murders that gave observers pause, and someone tipped off the police about it. So officers arrested him on a 4-month-old assault complaint brought by a bartender and used the opportunity to interrogate him about the poisonings. Arnold worked at a jewel warehouse with the father of victim Mary Reiner, and according to the New York Times, police received a tip that Arnold's ex-wife had been committed to the psychiatric ward of a hospital located across the street from the Winfield store where Mary Reiner purchased her Tylenol. In his apartment, Arnold kept a stash of Soldier of Fortune magazines and How to Crime, and manuals on how to commit crime.
Yeah.
He took annual trips to Thailand. He had a skull and crossbones tattoo on his forearm. And he was a closet chemist. A search of his home revealed several unlicensed guns, a bag of chemical powder, beakers, and funnels. The powder turned out to be potassium carbonate, not cyanide. And he would tell reporters, I'm not saying what the chemicals were used for, but it was nothing illegal. Which doesn't sound...
What I do with my chemicals is my business.
Like, what are you making then?
Yeah.
What kind of little experiments are you doing? He refused polygraph examinations. He was charged with assault and weapons violations, released on a $6,000 bond, and was pissed. For months, he fumed. He'd allegedly told his interrogators, I'd like to be on the homicide of the guy that turned me in for what he did to me. So,
threatening someone's life to cops. Smart.
Yeah. So, on the morning of June 18th, 1983, 46-year-old computer consultant John Stanisha was leaving a Lincoln Avenue bar after last call. The heavyset Stanisha resembled the man Arnold believed had implicated him in the Tylenol case. Arnold began stalking the man, and then approached him and yelled, "You turned me in," and shot him at point-blank range.
Oh, fuck!
So he was then tried, convicted, and sentenced to 30 years for the murder.
Jesus.
He was never charged with the Tylenol murders, though.
Yeah.
So they do keep him as a person of interest, but more so they focused on James Lewis. Let's get an ad break in, and then we'll be right back with the rest of the story. So, by mid-October 1982, photographs of the Lewises were on television screens and front pages nationwide. Shortly after arriving in Manhattan, LeAnn found temp work as Nancy Richardson at a real estate firm called Abrams, Bennett, and Riker. She showed up every weekday from September 20th through Thursday, October 14th, but on Friday the 15th, she called in sick and disappeared, never returning to pick up the 4 days' pay she was owed. She loves just not getting paid for the last week.
Yeah.
James Lewis never held a job in New York. He did, however, have a lot of contact with people at the Rutledge Hotel where they were staying. So on the 14th, the last day she showed up, one of the hotel's owners encountered Lewis, Jim James, in the lobby. Jimmy Jam James. Lewis said hello, and then Moshe Siri, he was one of the hotel owners. He's like, "Hey, do I know you from somewhere? Did you live in another building or something?" And Lewis is like,
definitely
"No."
not from TV and that Tylenol stuff.
Lewis is like, no, I'm new. I'm from Missouri. And Moshe Siri
I'm from Missouri, mate.
He was like, "Oh, okay, you look real familiar, though." A little bit later on, he realized where he'd seen Lewis's face before.
Wait a second!
He had seen him on Nightline.
Yeah.
But the couple didn't wait for him to make that connection. LeAnn dropped off the key to room 200, and Robert and Nancy Richardson ceased to exist.
Why would you drop the key off?
Yeah, I don't know.
What the fuck? Bounce.
So then on October 18th, when LeAnn didn't show up, someone from her temp job notified the New York City Police Department. With the tip, over 100 cops and FBI agents combed Manhattan for days. Block by block, but came up empty. The couple had somehow eluded the dragnet. On October 18th, a clean-shaven Edward Scott and his wife Carol, new names again.
You guys didn't see it, but he used quotations. Yeah, that's not his real name.
They checked into another hotel owned by that same guy, Moshe Siri.
I'm sure he probably didn't know that's who the owner was.
Probably not.
Hopefully it comes back to fuck him.
This one was just 13 blocks from where they originally had been.
Quite the getaway.
It was a really shitty little hotel, roach-infested. Everybody in the hotel had to share the bathroom. It just was a shitty place, and no one really paid much attention to it.
Yeah.
So much of the Tylenol coverage now focused on the fugitive's character and friends and acquaintances. Some were of the opinion that James Lewis was a charming, if mischievous, genius. Quote, "He could talk to you on any subject and convince you that no matter how much you knew, he knew more." Which
sounds fun.
Sounds like a good dude to hang out with.
Get me next to that guy at a party. I do stand-up comedy. Well, I've done stand-up comedy for 20 years. I taught Rodney Davidson.
Honey Davidson.
Davidson?
Yeah, you know. He probably did teach Rodney.
You know, Rodney. I'm dumb.
Another guy, quote, he seemed to have a good heart. He'll be getting the kick of his life reading about himself, and he'll be 5 steps ahead of everybody. He's that smart.
Well, just fucking blow him, buddy.
Others had more sinister impressions. The man who gave Lewis his first job in Kansas City said, he has the most bizarre personality I have ever met in my life, and I've met thousands of them.
I'm in a bar in St. Louis.
A Chicago co-worker remarked on Lewis's strange manner and obsessive rants about impending economic ruin. He'd glare. He'd stare at you and not say anything. That, just, no thank you.
Yeah.
So Jim
walk
Lewis's plan to extort McCahey was not going great. When he sent the note to Johnson & Johnson, he hoped that McCahey would be investigated. But by late October, he had found himself as the, target of the investigation. To ensure justice, he tried again, and this time, as McCahey, he sent a death threat to President Reagan.
Oh.
So that
This is definitely not John Lewis. This is McCahey.
Though the exact contents of the presidential correspondence were never released, press reports said that its writer demanded changes in federal tax policy, or else the Tylenol killings would continue, and that the White House would be bombarded with remote-controlled model airplanes that would jam Secret Service radio transmissions.
Oh, shit.
And I am not Jim Lewis. This is McCahey.
Yeah.
In case you needed to know, Reagan, just remember the name McCahey.
I don't know how to spell it. It's my name, but I can't spell it. You can probably spell it.
Oh, shit. So then, since that still wasn't working, Lewis began corresponding with newspaper editors. On October 27th, the Chicago Tribune received a thick packet of documentation of the McCahey payroll affair.
He owed me $500.
Along with a note written in cursive. Quote, as you have probably guessed, my wife and I have not committed the Chicago area Tylenol murders. We do not go around killing people. We never have and we never will. Contrary to reports, we are not armed. Unless one means in the anatomical paraplegic sense.
Oh.
So making jokes.
Making jokes, yeah.
And,
keep it light.
They probably did, dismember a guy.
Yeah.
So, just...
Callback.
Uh-huh.
Callback is what that's what that is.
Dude's got a good set.
Yeah. Type 5.
We shall never carry weapons, no matter how bizarre the police and FBI reports. Domestically, weapons are for two quite similar types of mentalities. Criminals and the police. We are neither. Signed, Robert Richardson.
You are both, is what they should have said.
So, the week before Thanksgiving, Lewis sent the Kansas City Star a 7-page letter titled A Mortal Dilemma. The letter, while never mentioning Tylenol, offered a series of ethical questions as well as some personal reflection. So he kind of goes into his whole backstory.
Yeah.
Woe's me bullshit. And he also used this correspondence to taunt Kansas City authorities. And he basically says, because they're trying to resurrect the charges against him for Raymond West's death. So he puts in there, reopen the Raymond West case.
That case doesn't have any legs.
He goes, that sounds like a splendid idea. Great. Why have the police taken so long to come to their senses? It sounds like a splendid idea to reopen it. So they do. They reopen it. And they sent...
He's a sassy little fella.
Yeah. So on November 16th, 1982... an FBI memo to the Kansas City Police Department reported an interesting finding. One fingerprint present on a lift. Remember how they found the rope and stuff? Yeah, so they pulled them up. So they identified the right thumbprint of James Lewis.
Oh, how'd that get there?
So during Thanksgiving week, Lewis sent yet another letter to the Tribune, taking on his Tylenol accusers while explaining his rationale for the extortion attempt. To bring truth about McCahey.
I want my $500.
You guys don't understand what a piece of shit this man is. It is my hope that by sending the information to the press, those powers which have prevented an investigation will acquiesce, so that the matter can be properly examined. I also remind you that these are the same investigators who engineered the placing of my wife's name and my name on prime suspect lists without bothering to determine what we had both moved from the Chicago area nearly a month before the Tylenol poisonings began. After hearing those people on the news and reading the reports, it sounded like they already had us convicted, and of something we could not have possibly done. We continue to respect the laws and institution and a concept. I have attempted to act as an informant, to act on the side of the law. But the FBI and their state associates have used their precious resources to terrorize, humiliate, ridicule, and speculate in public about the private lives of my family and me. Is this what a person who attempts to be a good citizen should expect from the United States Department of Justice?
Man.
That's what McCahey should be getting.
Not me,
McCahey. McCahey. I'm a good boy. Lewis signed his real name and slapped a right thumbprint to the documents. Later, he would be interviewed by a WBBM's Mike Parker. Parker asked him, what was it like to be on the run knowing every law enforcement agency in the country was looking for you? And he said, it's terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Can you imagine trying to tell your wife, honey, I wrote a letter, and she just says, oh yeah? There's something else I need to tell you. They're talking about it on the radio. So then the Parker, how'd she take that? And then Lewis says, she just sat and stared at the wall for a while. And then said,
she does that.
And then said, how could you have done such a thing? So, yeah, he's like...
Is this that plain broad?
This is that plain,
yeah.
You know, she has eyes.
She just sits there and stares at walls.
You know how she is.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so he's like, I don't know how... I can only imagine, like, she hates him so much, but she's there and, like, stuck.
Yeah.
But he's like, so guess what I did?
They dismembered a guy together, probably. So.
And she's just got to be like, oh,
another letter. We got to go again, don't we?
What
We got to
now?
run. We got to get another 12 blocks.
So the day before Thanksgiving 1982, their 14th wedding anniversary, LeAnn signed for a $140 money order from her father at Manhattan Western Union office. Surveillance cameras captured the couple's meek movements, and the FBI inched closer. LeAnn, so the FBI was like keeping an eye on them, though. They knew where they were now. So LeAnn ventured out and landed an $8.50 an hour bookkeeping job as Carol Scott, which, if this was 82, minimum wage is just $8.75, so that's like pretty good money, I would imagine, in 82. Knowing James Lewis had been monitoring Chicago and Kansas City newspapers, FBI agents blanketed every newsstand and public library with wanted posters. And on the afternoon of December 13th, 1982, Special Agent Vincent Piazza got the call. A librarian at a New York public library
said, shh.
had just handed Lewis 2 volumes. Piazza and his partner Mike Falcone, which these guys are.
Oh my God, Falcone and Piazza.
Vincent Piazza and Michael Falcone.
Yeah, that's like a TNT show. Ain't no drama.
Piazza and Falcone. So they cover the exits. Piazza goes up to the 4th floor. The librarian points to a man hunched over in a little study area. Piazza approached and tapped the man on the shoulder. The man stood up, put his glasses on, and stood silent as the cuffs were put on him. Following the arrest, Tylenol investigators played it both ways. Some called Lewis a prime suspect in the poisoning. Others stuck to the facts. Lewis was only charged with the extortion attempt. Additional leads were still being pursued. After 100 days of fruitless legwork, the task force showed
I'm sure
signs.
a lot of those people are probably, let's just say he did it. Just so, like, you know.
You would think a lot of people were like, yeah. So Johnson & Johnson returned triple-sealed Tylenol to store shelves. An entire tamper-evident packaging industry sprang up in the wake of the poisonings. $100 million in losses were suffered by Johnson & Johnson, and new regulations were instituted by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Before 1982, only moisture and temperature-sensitive medications have protective seals. The Tylenol deaths changed all of that. So Lewis pleaded not guilty at his extortion arraignment, and federal prosecutors geared up for the trial. LeAnn refused to assist them. She surrendered to authorities the day after her husband's arrest, but declined to answer investigators' questions. She just, looked at the wall.
Yeah. They forgot she was there eventually. She just, walked out.
Yeah, if she doesn't move, you just forget about her after 2 seconds. Federal prosecutors then charged LeAnn with misappropriating the Social Security number she used to become Nancy Richardson while working in Chicago. Despite the charge's misdemeanor status, prosecutors asked for a $5 million bond. LeAnn spent that Christmas in jail, awaiting a bond reduction hearing. Officials invited her to cooperate with the government's investigation into any of the troubling circumstances surrounding her husband, the letter to Johnson & Johnson, the Reagan letter, the death of Ray West, and the Tylenol poisonings. She said nothing.
I mean, you can do that too. You don't you can decide not to testify or against your spouse.
Yeah. The defense attorney, their argument was that Jim Lewis had a pitiful start to life, but he and LeAnn had developed an extremely close marriage. The death of their 5-year-old daughter tore apart their lifelong bond, though. That Jim became enraged at McCahey's treatment of LeAnn. He learned at the wage claim hearing that McCahey's bank accounts had been frozen, so they got no money from that. And despite his best efforts, no one in law enforcement would listen to his allegations against McCahey. Why won't they kill McCahey? So
telling everybody.
The defense is like, we can't blame this guy. He's been wronged, and he just wanted you to do something about it, and you wouldn't. So
he feels entitled, everybody.
He says that, he wrote the letter, but he never intended that the company would actually pay the $1 million.
I'm joking.
He said that Lewis knew that they didn't have that kind of money to pay anyways. He only intended the letter to draw authorities to McCahey, nothing more. He didn't actually write the letter expecting money, so he wasn't trying to actually extort them for anything. So he didn't not actually commit any extortion. In the closing argument, U.S. Attorney Dan Webb tried to refute the ridiculous defense. He also planted the seeds of doubt that surround that he kind of just. People still think Lewis is the one that did the Tylenol.
Yeah.
He says
that had his plan all along to do that and then blame it on McCahey or whatever.
Yeah. So after the 6-day trial, it took the jury just 2.5 hours to find James Lewis, then 37, guilty of attempted extortion on October 27th, 1983. But Jim tried to be helpful from here. So in prison, he was working in the prison bakery, but his fellow inmates refused to eat his pastries.
Hell yeah!
So for whatever reason, he hated work. I don't know why that was, but he didn't like working.
Put him anywhere near anything edible.
That's true, yeah. So instead, he kept trying to get on the Tylenol task force. So
I'm telling you, I know right where this guy is that did it.
He's like, I can tell you everything about McCahey. So in '83, he contacts the U.S. Attorney Jeremy Margolis, and Margolis says that he volunteered his services because he had time on his hands, and he was really smart. He said he accepted the offer. He let Lewis
come on over.
He would have him come into the office and give him his theories on shit. They met several times for hours at a time, and he would always arrive with hundreds of pages of manuscripts, diagrams, and theories on how the killings might have happened. He would do all these drawings.
It's like OJ's book, If I Did
It. So now most of the FBI, everybody thinks he did it.
Yeah.
So the FBI, the policemen, and everything, they think he did it. So they're waiting for him to slip up in one of these meetings. But he never did. So he basically is just he never really gives them anything. He won't do a polygraph. He never really gives them anything to indicate that he actually did this. He's just giving them a ton of theories.
Yeah.
At one point, he's in... Where is it at? Where's it at? At one point, he says some crazy shit about... He's trying to get a motion to for parole. And he tries he makes up something. I'm trying to find it in the story.
Or maybe get his case overturned.
Well, he just completely makes up a situation that he says happened in court and it didn't.
He was in 11th grade, Joe Biden banned all guns from schools. And 11th grader showed up with 3 guns and no one else had guns.
Oh, yeah, that does sound familiar. Somebody in Congress did that.
Would make that up.
I can't remember who it is now, but he... Oh, here it is.
All right.
So he says that he was convicted not because he committed a crime, but because the U.S. Attorney, Daniel K. Webb, in open court, threatened to kill the jurors with poison and a gun.
That's good lawyering right there.
He says that he will never forget the fear in the jury's eyes.
Oh.
That Mr. Webb committed the crime of extortion in open court, an act that amounted to jury tampering. No one can blame the poor jurors when they themselves were the victims. Like, he's trying to say that this happened in a court
where
it clearly fucking didn't.
Yeah, there'd be a record of it.
There would be a big...
They got the little
Pretty sure you would have heard about it.
Yeah.
So...
He, like, leaned in and whispered it.
Like, I don't know if he... Like, I would love to know if he actually thought the judge was going to be like, my God.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Get him out of that prison. Get McCahey in there.
So So his motion was denied. Yeah, I can't believe he didn't say that. I can't believe he wasn't like, I was in court.
Yeah.
And I was saying, like, whatever you're accusing me of, I did. I'm sorry for all of it. And then McCahey came in and held everyone at gunpoint. And he did a lot of cocaine.
Everyone was blinking at the same time and missed it.
So he tried to be a model prisoner. He taught himself Latin while improving his French and Spanish skills. He painted murals with sports themes. He tried to get paroled at every opportunity, but as he told WBBM's Mike Parker in '89, he wasn't optimistic after his first eligibility hearing.
How many years did they give him when they found him guilty? I don't remember. Maybe. It's all right.
He's out now.
Okay.
So.
Oh, shit. Hide your Tylenol.
So... He says that in their meeting here, 2 examiners indicated that they will extend my time in prison by construing the Tylenol letter as if it were a confession. The United States Parole Commission will, in fact, be accusing me of being the Tylenol murderer. Margolis have no more interest in protecting the public in this case than the Tylenol murderer himself did. They have become, with their actions, the best friend that the Tylenol murderer could ever have. By taking the actions they have taken here, they've done the same thing as pinning the Congressional Medal of Honor on the Tylenol murderer's chest. During another one of Mike Parker's broadcasts, Dan Webb, he was, I forget who he was somebody in law enforcement, says, first of all, he's the one that sent the extortion note, which would immediately at least raise into question whether or not he's the one who committed the murders. Lewis remained defiant. I could send a letter to the Roman Senate saying, give me 1 million gold pieces, and I will stop the killing of Caesar. But that doesn't mean I killed Caesar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was like 1,000 years ago, dickhead.
So on October 13th, 1995, Lewis walked out of the federal penitentiary and went straight back home to LeAnn. Today, the case is still being investigated.
Like, God damn, you're still so plain. Just so...
Can't believe I found you.
So plain.
You somehow gotten plainer. So it has now been 40 years. The case is still being investigated.
Wow.
They just recently got a lot more like DNA samples from possible. Like they're trying to rule out every family member.
Yeah. That
was like anybody that died. They're trying to still rule out like every single family member or anybody that knew those people.
It's just so widespread. All the different stores and.
But so this fucking dude though, like if he had never sent that letter.
Yeah.
Then that would have never sidetracked the investigation.
They did 12 years in 83 and 95.
Okay, yeah.
Damn.
So, yeah, he basically, like, they could have maybe caught the person that did this, but once he sent that letter, and,
they start
put himself in the picture, they focused on him.
Like you said before that, they were thinking, like, maybe they killed everybody to target one person. They weren't, their minds were open, and they were looking at everything, and then they get that letter, and they're like, well, we don't think it's McCahey, but this Lewis guy's a dumb fuck, so it might be him.
But the guy that's clearly trying to set him up might have something to do with it. Yeah, so we'll probably, I don't know, we'll probably never know who did it. But yeah, it did end up.
Let's get to the bottom of it.
It did end up like resetting how everything was done.
Yeah.
I mean, with the
pills are hard to get into now.
Now there's also some stuff that I really didn't get a lot of info. Like, I just kind of like read a little bit about it, but there's also a guy that used to work for Johnson & Johnson, came out years later, wrote a book, and he was a bit of a whistleblower. And in the book, he talks about what was happening at this time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like things that Johnson & Johnson around that time, like there was a lot of shady shit happening.
So if it was just an accident.
Could have happened it could have been somebody that worked at Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like
that
someone
did
at like the factory warehouse, whatever.
Yeah, because it would have been way easier to do that.
Yeah, then going to each store and 50 pills over 8 bottles.
Yeah, you just do a few here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're already like maybe on the conveyor already open up, and you just bloop 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 bloop.
Or like
bloop.
if you you just pocket some Tylenol,
Yeah.
go home, put the shit
Put it
in
back
it,
on the shelf.
and then as it's coming back down your line,
Yeah.
pop those bottles open,
Oh yeah.
throw it in. So, but they said that there was a lot of
I
stuff.
can't believe no one, if it wasn't Lewis, like no one tried to get some sort of credit for that. That seems like something that the person who did it would want to get some recognition.
would eventually came out and claimed, and they may still one day. Like that was
83.
So
82, 83, so
I mean
41 years ago.
Let's say it was like some 30-year-old guy. He's 70 something now.
Oh yeah, it was probably definitely male, white, between 20 and 30 years old.
So
there has been women. The women's top drug
poison.
Yeah, it's poison, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I tend to lead towards the theory that it was somebody working at Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah, I don't think it was Lewis
that did it there. No, I don't think.
I don't think he's organized enough to do anything like that.
But yeah, and like there would have been.
He's a scammer. He's not that's not.
I mean, the only way he would have done it was to give a reason to try to set McCahey up. But I feel like there's a million other ways he could have done that.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like him doing
But good for him for going to jail for 12 years. He's a stupid piece of shit.
For basically fucking up the
if you're listening
whole
to this,
investigation.
buddy. Yeah.
The last time somebody reached out, I did read that the guy that wrote that article I used, he tried to reach out to Lewis, and LeAnn answered the phone.
Yeah.
And then she just hung up. Like
Plainly.
they wouldn't. Yeah. Very plain even on the phone.
She was like, "Ma."
So yeah, that's the Tylenol man. And they would call him that in prison. Like the other inmates and stuff. That's how he got the nickname the Tylenol man.
Oh yeah.
And he hated it because he was so mad that he was so pissed off. He wasn't pissed off that he went to prison for this. He was pissed off and was the entire time. He was pissed off that no one ever did anything about McCahey.
Yeah, I bet the whole time in prison he just fucking bitched about McCahey.
This entire time he's like, he just cannot figure out how his fucking grand plan.
Well, hopefully McCahey died and he got to piss on his grave or something.
Who
knows?
I hope McCahey has I hope he's still around.
Yeah.
I don't know if he is or not, but I hope McCahey's still around and
calls him and be like, remember that $500?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day calls. Hey, I'm sitting here holding $500 in my hand. I just threw it into the fire.
Another 500 burned up. Fuck it.
So, all right. Well, yeah. So it is kind of scary to think though that you could go grab a bottle of Tylenol, and
we're just so used to things going one way and just everything happening the way that it should.
You never think about.
Yeah, like today we were driving around, the power was off, and I was joking, but still, it was like, this is so crazy. Like we had a lot of, a whole. What if half a mile of traffic lights back? Yeah, what if it never comes back on? I mean, it's just, what if you can't go to the store and just buy something for a headache? I took ibuprofen today. My knee hurt. My head hurt.
Right now, if you just
and I'm still alive.
Over.
Yeah.
McCahey's back at it.
McCahey did it again.
All right. Well,
just call me John McSherry. You know who that is? He's the umpire that died opening day at the Cincinnati Reds game in the 90s.
So you're dressed in honor of him today?
Yeah. Today's John McSherry. Well, yesterday was John McSherry Day, but I'm keeping the...
you have a Masters of the Universe pin on your shirt. I wish all umpires would wear a He-Man pin. I think that'd be a fun little twist of the game.
I'd be Skeletor if I was the umpire, though.
With the mask. You have that cool mask.
Yeah, yeah. Damn.
That's what baseball needs to do.
Yeah, their umpires and catchers should have how hockey masks
are. Hockey masks was have
Fuck
the cool...
yeah.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't watch, but I'd look at pictures.
Baseball needs... The best thing that could ever happen for baseball is if all of the... And, this goes for most things in life. If all of the old white guys would get the fuck out.
Yeah. Take their unwritten rules.
Because baseball sticks to, all that old tradition.
I think every time you get to a base, you have to fist fight the baseman to stay on that base.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, you get a hit and you get the first, and ding, ding, ding. It's just a 1 minute round to the death.
Definitely,
to the death.
They do get paid a lot, so it's worth the risk.
You listening to MLB?
We got changes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully one day McCahey gets what he deserves. Until then, you got anything else?
Nope.
All right.
That's it all on the field.
You wanna give us a...
Get out of here!